My name's Aaron Massey, and welcome back to the How To Home podcast. On today's episode, we are talking about home security. So we are talking about how to set up a basic system, what components you might need, how much money you can expect to spend, some burglary prevention tips, and why you need a dog. Welcome to the How To Home podcast, presented by FilterBuy. I'm your host, Aaron Massey, a DIY home improvement enthusiast and full-time content creator running MrFixItDIY.com. Alongside me is my co-host, Tracy Pendergast, a home and lifestyle blogger operating her website, HeyTracy.com. Each week, we'll cover the real-world ups and downs of owning a home, answer your questions, and if we don't have the answers, we'll talk to some experts to help you get the most out of your remodel, repair, and home improvement projects. So without further ado, let's start the show. And joining me as always is Tracy Pendergast. And our guest today is Ryan Kadoi. And we are talking about home security, which is a subject near and dear to my heart, and I think probably everybody's heart. But Ryan has over 15 years of commercial and residential security experience. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
Thank you for having me. Yes, so for 15 years, straight out of college, this was the first choice for me. I wanted to always work in technology, and security always stood out because cameras are getting so advanced these days. I just really wanted to be sure that I could be a part of that and, not have a job where I would get replaced by a robot, So wanting to make sure that I was in an industry that worked really well for me.
Oh, that's true. There will always be burglars. That's job security, right?
Yeah, that's certainly job security. And I know that I have had some experiences everywhere that I've lived. From the time I was a kid, my house got broken into twice, even though I was in a super small, farm town. And I was in college, my truck got broken into. I moved out here, my car got broken into. So I am a little bit paranoid. So I'm really excited to pick your brain about some stuff because I want to make sure that I have the most secure home possible.
Now all Aaron has is the shirt on his back that he came with
that's
today,
right.
and that mug.
I have nothing left.
Well, I hope I can definitely help with that.
Awesome. You did some research on some staggering statistics about...
I did. Would you like me to share?
Yes.
Okay, so some facts that I was surprised about. So according to the FBI, a burglary occurs somewhere in the United States every 15.4 seconds. So boom,
yeah,
someone's window just got broken.
30 since we started talking.
Exactly. About 60% of convicted burglars stated that the presence of a security system influenced their decision to target another home. So we'll talk about that, how you can advertise that your house is taken care of. Most burglaries take place between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. That surprised me. So during the day when people are at work. Most criminals can burglarize a home in less than 10 minutes. So that's actually interesting to me too. With the camera stuff, is 10 minutes enough time to respond if you're doing DIY monitoring? And someone is home nearly 3 out of every 10 burglaries. So that is kind of scary.
Yeah, that's crazy scary.
And then the other thing that surprised me is the place that burglars usually go to first is the master bedroom. That's where all the jewelry and
I'm
stuff is.
guessing that must be a jewelry thing. Because I'm thinking I'm going for the TV or something,
Right? Electronics.
I guess nowadays TVs are so cheap. And so,
all the devices that you have, right? So you keep your cell phones and your iPads and all the high-tech devices. You want to keep them nearby you inside your room. So that's the obvious choice.
So before we get into all this, I just want to remind the audience that we do have a voicemail box set up that you can call 24/7 anytime you want. Leave us a question and we will do our best to feature it on the show at some point. We have some home security questions lined up that hopefully you can help us answer or help the audience, get some information on. But if you do want to call us, make sure you give us a call at 978-709-1040. Again, you can call us anytime, leave a message, and we'll try to get it included on the show. And also, before we dive too far in, I want to take a second to thank our founding partner of the How To Home podcast, and that is FilterBuy. They are a direct-to-consumer filter company. They're made right here in the United States, and they're a family-owned business.
You can save 5% when you subscribe, so you set it and forget it and never think about filters again. They just auto-mail.
Yeah, it's super easy. I just signed up for it myself. All you have to do is you go on, you input your filter sizes, you can select how often you want them delivered. And for me, I selected that I want them delivered every 3 months. I have 2 different units, and you just input the sizes. They send it direct to your door. You don't ever have to remember to go to the store and buy a new filter or anything like that. It shows up, you change it, your system runs good.
Because if you leave your house to get a filter, you can be burglarized.
That's true. That is true. You can be burglarized while you're at Home Depot.
And they all ship within 24 hours. So that's another awesome thing.
Thank you to FilterBuy for being involved in the show. And let's dive in. I have a bunch of questions for you, and I'm hoping you can give us some information. First and foremost, I want to just talk about in general, what are some of the things that a homeowner can kind of do to minimize the risk of getting broken into. So growing up, my dad always said that a lock only dissuades an honest person. So to me, it's like, yeah, you can put a lock on your door, you can do all this stuff, but what else can you do that is really going to dissuade burglars from kind of targeting your home?
Good question. You really want to be observant of your neighborhood. You want to know your neighbors. You want to know who's walking around, what cars they're driving, stuff like that. So I'm not saying sign up for the neighborhood watch and be that annoying person that's the nosy neighbor, but you just want to be aware of your surroundings, right? It's maybe something stands out that you're not particularly used to, just something to help you keep you aware of something like that. That's always a great thing to do. You really want to act more on prevention as opposed to something like reactionary, like a system, because a camera will capture something after the fact. You want to hope to prevent as much as possible. So
there's a lot of things now, like, for example, I'm part of NextDoor, which is kind of almost a Facebook for your neighborhood. You input your address and all that in it. I get a lot of things on there about, suspicious people and things. And some of my neighbors, can be a little paranoid and, sometimes borderline racist, but you do get a lot of like stuff, there's a suspicious car parked, around the corner or whatever. But it's also good for like, oh, my dog got out. Has anybody seen it kind of stuff? So being part of that type of community, being neighborly. I mean, I think nowadays we're so plugged into our phones all the time that people don't really talk to each other. But, knowing your neighbors is a great first step.
Goes a long way. We're so ingrained into our phones. We don't really observe what's going around us. So, someone could be watching your house all the time. You're so busy looking at your phone, you don't even know that that's what's taking place.
So if someone is watching your house, what are the types of things that, if you're thinking like a criminal, what kind of things do you think they're looking for? What kind of weaknesses?
You really want to search beforehand what you're not just parked out in front of someone's house and just being that creepy guy looking and seeing when someone leaves or something like that. As a criminal, you really want to maybe go into looking at something like Facebook or Instagram, seeing how someone can post where they're going. Sometimes they post, do they check in at the gym every day? Do they go to what restaurants or pictures of their food? They're taking pictures of their food going, I can't wait to eat this. That tells you you're out of the house. There's a lot of preventative things that you can do, and just be mindful of stuff like that while you're posting to you don't necessarily have to post that picture of your food while you're there at the restaurant. Maybe wait for another day. I'm not saying don't post that kind of stuff. We're all proud of our kids. We're all proud of the accomplishments that we do, and it's great to share that. But don't necessarily be the one posted at that minute, letting people know that can gain a pattern of where you're going to be.
Oh, that's a good point. I would never even think about that.
Yeah, the social media acknowledgement about what you're putting out there, you're checking in on all the various geotagging things, and I don't know if Foursquare is still a thing or not, but you're checking in at all these different locations, and you're establishing patterns. You're telling people where you are, when you're there, when you're on vacation. You're posting pictures of like what your kids got for Christmas and the interior of your home, and you're putting all this information out there publicly, and people can use it in a negative way. Yeah, you're sharing it with your family, but the more information you put out there, the more information a potential burglar or criminal has to target you. So you got to be mindful of what you post.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. And since we're talking about technology a bit and apps, I've been curious, what do you think is more effective? A system where a company monitors your home for you, or something that's more DIY where the updates and alerts come to your phone, a little bit of both?
It depends on budget and personality, right? I can't recommend something for everyone because everyone has what they really want. I like to monitor and I like to know what's going on rather than just hitting the easy button and have someone install it and then telling you after the fact that, hey, somebody broke into your house or a window got broken. There's no simple answer to that, but for myself, I prefer the DIY route.
So several years ago, I wanted to buy a system or come up with something that I could kind of monitor. So I bought on Amazon. I think it was like a 6-camera kit, something like that. A Defender kit, I think was the name of it. And it comes with the cameras. It comes with like a DVR kind of to record. And I have it hooked up so that it's on a single TV and you can do like multi-camera monitoring. So I liked it, but it had its drawbacks too. The one thing I didn't like about it is that, or that I don't like about it, is that it doesn't alert me on my phone if anything suspicious is going on. So if I'm not home, I would have to get home in order for it to know that something was off. It's wired, and it was such a pain to run the wiring for it through my attic. And I've had a lot of problems trying to run the wiring. And then I've also had some pest problems, which I did put one like in my driveway, and I kind of buried the wire, and a squirrel or something chewed through the wire. And so like now I have to rerun the wiring for that camera. So my latest craze is the smart home technology, the stuff that's out there. So I have a couple cameras now that I really enjoy. They're made by a company called Kuna in partnership with Maximus Lighting, I think. They're really minimalist. I have a motion light camera. You can hardly tell it's a camera. It looks like a traditional motion light. It's LED, and it alerts me right on my phone. And I also have, which is kind of like a sconce light, and it has a camera built into it. But I really like the minimalist look of that particular brand, as opposed to maybe some of the Rings or the Nests. They have bulkier cameras, which I don't really like. Do you have an opinion on those as far as which ones you like and why?
Personally, I like what you described, the Kuna style things. The small battery operated cameras for myself is the easier way to go. Like you said, running a wire through the attic is always very difficult. And even when there's cameras out there that say that they are wireless, they may be wireless in the fact that you don't have to run a data cable to the internet, but you still require power. So if you're trying to position a camera somewhere where you think you don't have to run a cable, how are you going to get power to it? So it's not a truly wireless camera. My mind and what I prefer is those battery operated style cameras like an Arlo. My preference is something called Blink. So those are battery operated cameras. But again, those also have their own drawbacks. You have to replace a battery. So you have to remember when that goes out, or you have to be mindful of that. But personally, for myself, I like to go the smaller, less inconspicuous route.
When my husband and I were looking for security for our home, something that's important to me with 2 little kids, I want something where if a window opens, an alarm is going to go off. You know, when you have young kids in another room, like, I don't know, I just need to know that if a door or a window is opened, there will be a loud noise. You know, that just makes me feel secure. So we started with ADT for that. And then we have the Ring for our front porch. And then we have Arlo for our back and side yards. So that's essentially 3 different subscription services that we're paying. So what we're looking for is something that encompasses all those things. Is there a system where you can have the cameras but also have sensors and all of those other things that you get from ADT?
Yes, there is. And there's quite a few things that it doesn't necessarily have to be product specific. You can still purchase different items and still get it all to kind of just do the one thing that you're looking for. You don't necessarily have to buy all Ring or all Nest or all one type of system or one ADT. You can buy individual things that work on the same frequency. So there's a lot of things called Z-Wave or Zigbee or something like that. That's a different form of Wi-Fi, or different frequency of Wi-Fi. You can use those and integrate that with a smart hub that can essentially just give you that one notification on your phone itself. So if a door or window sensor breaks, you can get a notification on that. If your camera goes off and it has a motion detection, that also can be brought to your phone or your tablet or whatever device you want to monitor. And you don't necessarily have to have just one specific product. So ADT, that's it. You're stuck. You're done with whatever that is. You don't have to do that. You have options.
It's getting your stuff to talk to each other, basically,
right,
and all come into one hub.
So there's hubs, and then there's individual things that are tied together through apps. So it's just more of a personal preference of what you want and how you want to see it.
That's I think what I'm most interested in is I don't want to have 20 different apps for all the different security systems or different products that I have because I like this one from this company and this one from this company or something like that. I really want it to be an all-encompassing single notification that comes from whatever it is and says, your window's open, or you left your garage door open, or, somebody just, suspicious activity in your backyard, or whatever. So I really want to figure out how I can lump all my stuff together and make it communicate. And is there like something that you can recommend for that? Is there like a...
Yeah, definitely.
And you mentioned Z-Wave. That's a frequency of Wi-Fi where all these devices communicate together?
Yeah, exactly. So there's a couple of different hubs out there that you can get that you tie into your router. One that I particularly use and a fan of is Samsung SmartThings. So it's a hub that you plug into your router, but then there's additional peripherals that you can attach, whether it's a camera or a light switch or a window or door sensor, locks, garage door openers that you can all tie into that hub. And then with that hub, it communicates between those devices. And then you're looking at one platform. You're looking at your phone itself, and then you can open up a menu and you can toggle them on and off, set them for different notifications, stuff like that. So you can do that. And SmartThings isn't the only option out there. There are several different options out there that you can choose.
So another question along those lines is, you have all these smart things, smart locks, smart cameras, all this stuff. How secure are those things themselves? Can a hacker drive into my driveway and go doot, 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 and unlock all my stuff and just walk right in?
So yes, that's always an option. Nothing is completely foolproof. It is technology, right? And technology has faults. So, for personally myself, I've kind of steered away from the locks themselves because of that reason. If a lock fails, it is technology. It's going to fail, and I don't want my house to not be secure. In the initial stage of these days, I've heard plenty of options where people have the security behind it, built into it itself, hasn't been secure. So it is easy for hackers to get in there and unlock something like that, or view your cameras. That's always a risk and something you want to be aware of. I wouldn't go all out and go completely locks and cameras and depend 100% on technology and eliminate that key lock. I'd still keep that in there, especially on something like as important as a sliding door. You want to make sure that's covered with a window sensor. You still want to have those locks in place.
I know like ADT, like you were saying, and some of the other security companies that are out there, they do the window sensors and stuff. But is there I hate wires. For me, if I can avoid running wires, I'm all for it. Are there good like wireless window sensors out there
definitely.
that communicate?
Simple search on Amazon can bring you tons of options. They come in 2 packs, 4 packs, whatever you like, and they're completely wireless. So it's like a magnetic contact. So they put together like this, and then the minute the door separates or it opens either way, that contact breaks, and then it can send a signal, via battery, or it's powered up by a battery to your phone or to whatever device that you like.
Yeah, because I would love to install that. I have a pretty old home. My home's from the 30s, and I definitely don't want to have to open up walls to run wires or try and hide wires for all these windows. And I have a lot of windows and a lot of big windows in this home. I think back when they were building things back then, they maybe didn't worry so much about all these huge entry and exit points into your house. But so that's one thing I really want to focus on, because sometimes, my wife will tell me in the morning, like, oh, because I have a whole house fan. And at night, I like to open up the windows and pull in kind of some of the cooler air from outside. And then the next morning, my wife will be like, oh, you left the window open in the thing. I just left the whole window open that somebody could just walk, climb right through in the middle of the night. And, it's scary sometimes when I think about some of the mistakes that I leave and getting complacent, you just don't think about.
Right. Yeah, it's a home that you live in every single day, and you're busy. You've got your job to get to. You got your kids to pick up. You got the sports activities to take them to. You're not always thinking, did I lock that door? Did I lock that window? And so stuff like with the window sensors helps you quite a bit. Even the garage door, I at one time had a garage door opener that you can control with the SmartThings app or with an app of some sorts, and then you build a geofence with your Wi-Fi network. So when your phone is within that Wi-Fi network, the minute you drive away and forget to shut your door, disconnects from your Wi-Fi, that's a signal for the garage door to close. So it closes on its own, and then when you come home, you get into your Wi-Fi, it detects that your phone's now within range, garage door opens. So in theory, it's a great thing to have. It's something that it's a convenience item in case you forget something, but it is technology and can also be a fail point as well. So you just really want to be mindful of and try to balance your technology with just smart thinking about how you want to use the device.
But this is my thing with cameras. Okay, so they capture a lot, and you can capture people doing crazy things, but how often can you take that security footage you get of someone taking a package off your porch or doing something to your home and actually be able to get a result?
That's not the job of the homeowner, right? That's the job of the police to try and figure out who this person is. But it's certainly never been easier to have high quality footage. I mean, back in the day, even some of the cameras even the ones that I have now that I just bought a few years ago, like they're obsolete. But HD is HD, right? It's high quality stuff. So if you're going to get somebody's face that you can actually get a hit on, a positive ID, there's never been a better time as far as technology goes, because cameras in the old day were like 360p and it's just a one single
blur.
Pixel is that person's face. And you're like, that could literally be anybody.
Yeah. The Ring is great. I mean, you can tell plain as day, because if someone's going to steal your package, they have to basically put their face right in front of the Ring. I just wonder with like car theft and stuff, when your cameras are, further distance, how often police are actually able to follow through and make an arrest.
And that's a tricky thing. Cameras are reactionary, right? It records it after the fact. So you've already lost whatever item, or you lost your car broken into. And hopefully you might catch that person on their face as cameras improve. Like you said, the HD quality is great, but people do also get smarter and know how to get around that as well. What I think my goal is to really educate people about being realistic with your cameras in your system. And, I've had so many ridiculous requests where I want a camera in that tree, where it's like, I can't put one there. How do you expect the data to get from the camera and record to your house or to your phone? There's no wires, there's no power, or there's someone wants a lower camera so he can't put his head down, in a planter somewhere where someone can just easily kick it or step on it. And I said, well, it's not a good place there. So you really want to, kind of steer the person in the right direction and set realistic expectations, because people just think you put up a camera, you get an image of someone, and like the movies, enhance, and you just open up and you do some magic gestures on your iPad, and all of a sudden you've got this crystal clear picture, which you don't necessarily get.
So let's talk about an actual system. Like, what are maybe the 5 things, or a list of things that every homeowner should have in their system, and where can they find them?
I love Amazon. Amazon for me is you have the most variety of being able to choose what type of products that you can. You go into Best Buy, they have their certain products that they like to sell. Amazon is pretty, Amazon, eBay, stuff like that. Pretty wide variety of what you're looking for.
So cameras, window sensors.
There's doorbells. Doorbells work. I also like floodlights. Floodlights are really helpful.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Floodlights themselves, because now it's not just a motion floodlight that you would normally have. You can now get motion floodlights with cameras and speakers built in, so that you can also monitor and watch and speak through the floodlight as well.
And a friend of mine actually said this the other day. She said that her neighborhood was broken into, like 3 homes, like right around hers. And her house did not get broken into. And she thinks it's because she had signage in the yard that the home was monitored. And so I think that, can certainly play a factor.
Yeah, definitely. Signage, having big cameras up on, or even a fake camera, sometimes may be enough just to deter a would-be burglar.
And for a budget, I think that's, if you've only got $30 to spend, it might be $30 well spent to buy a fake camera and put it up there. And they're hard to tell the difference. You don't really know if they're real or not.
Definitely. And even now, the $30 can buy you a cheaper camera that you can monitor remotely, so you don't have to have any fancy storage server or DVR, like you said, where you have to go home and take a look at it. You can monitor it from your phone from where you're at, and it's $30. So it is affordable. It's nothing that's going to break the bank.
For a system like, for example, like an ADT or one of those home monitoring systems, you're paying $30 to $60 probably a month, depending on your system, right? For them to monitor it. What are you really getting from that, other than it alerts them when something happens, and then what? They just call the cops, so they're just like the middlemen?
So they call the cops, they call it, they notify you. It's more of about like an easy button.
Kind of a peace of mind.
Yeah, kind of peace of mind, but like an easy button thing. It's, someone who doesn't necessarily have the time or want to monitor their own stuff, do they always have time to pull out their phone and look at every single notification that comes across? Someone else can do that for you. So, it's good to have if you can afford it, but it is a monthly cost. So, you are paying that monthly, whether it's paid off or not. So
I think it's great when you travel a lot too. You're not always in a situation where you can be checking your phone. You just know that if there's an issue, people will be sent out to the house. That's why I like it.
If you're looking at it from a budgetary perspective, there's a lot of DIY options, right? You can just go on Amazon. You can, and it's never been easier as far as, picking a thing that you like. There's all these different options. There's aesthetics. So if you're going a DIY route, you could spend, $50 really can start you on kind of a basic basic system, right?
Right, exactly. And then stuff like smart things, like I said, they have a basic package that you can get that comes with, its hub and some door sensors to start off, to get you eased into the DIY solution. You don't necessarily have to go full out and buy all the cameras all at once and then buy all of your door sensors. You can start small and then work your way up as your budget affords.
I mean, they can get expensive. I mean, if you're
Correct.
trying to cover your whole home in camera floodlights or whatever around each corner, I mean, you're talking each one of those can be $200-$250, so you're talking $1,000. Piecemealing things together. My concern is that 2 years from now, this stuff's going to be obsolete. I guess there's no real way to know what's going to come down the pipeline and phase itself out, but it's a lot of money to spend $250 on a camera and then be like 2 years from now, it's kind of junk.
Yeah, exactly. And that's hard because technology improves so fast. I mean, even 5 years ago, did we ever think that we were going to say, hey, Alexa, tell me what time it is, or what's the weather for today? You really never know what direction technology is going to go. So you don't want to necessarily go all out. I mean, you can if you've got the budget for it, but you really, before you do anything with home security, you really want to plan out and ask yourself some certain questions: as what can you afford and what do you want?
And I think you touched on some really great preventative measures that aren't necessarily a security system. So we talked about lighting your yard well. We talked about cameras out and visible signage. We talked about becoming a part of a neighborhood watch group, locks specifically. Is there anything else you can think of that you can do to the outside of your home to say, hey, don't mess with me?
Dogs.
Get a dog. and that's exactly what I was going to say next. My best security product is my dog. And it doesn't have to be a Doberman Pinscher or some crazy, massive dog. The little one that doesn't shut up is the best one that you got. Because my little dog, well, the minute somebody walks towards that door, he goes nuts and he's barking at that guy until that person walks away. That is the best, thing. Now, of course, that's not everyone can have one, but a dog is probably my favorite security product.
We touched on it briefly, but what I really want to know is okay, I'm considering a home security system or whatever. What are the 3 things or the 4 things I need to know as far as picking my things? It's 1, I need to determine my budget, right?
Correct.
What's number 2?
2, it's, the functions and the features you're looking for. Do you want to go wireless? Do you not want to go wireless? Does your house, outfitted for, does it have electrical outlets everywhere? Do you have data jacks built into your walls nowadays? So you want to know what options that you want, what features. And then, on the camera side, do you want, what kind of storage are you looking for? Are you looking for cloud storage? Are you looking for a DVR? Are you looking for something that you can build yourself, like just a home computer with hard drives? You can do that as well, or get something as a little small NAS server or box that can save all the video. So you want to know how do you want to get notified? Do you want to get notified via an email? Do you want someone else to do it for you with ADT or do a monitoring service? Do you want to get text messages? Honestly, we can sit here all day and I can ask you a question after question after question to dial that in. So my best suggestion is really just research what you want. What is it that you're hoping to capture? If you're hoping to capture a high def video of the person walking up, every single person walking up to your door, be ready that you need to spend some money and get a high quality camera.
But again, those have never been more affordable.
Right.
So yeah,
exactly.
you still have to spend a lot of money, but they've never been more affordable than they are now. Is there any difference between apartment living versus home living? Once they're in the building, they can kind of go anywhere, a criminal if they want to get to your house. So there's a lot of factors, I guess, that are come into play a little bit that you wouldn't necessarily have in a home because somebody comes onto your yard. But if somebody, if I go up to an apartment complex and I go, pound 7 and somebody just buzzes me in, well, I'm in.
Right.
And I have access to your home.
Interesting you bring that up. My company actually does do a lot of work with apartment complexes, and it's the property managers themselves who are really investing inside the security. So what they're doing is, at those gates, they're putting cameras or they're putting key fobs. So you can't really buzz someone in or something like that. You can, you have to have a certain key fob that you swipe to get into the door. We're doing lots and lots of camera installs and lots of covert camera installs. So where there's public pedestrian gates where people can just walk in or jump over the fence, people don't even see that. So we'll drill a little tiny pinhole inside one of the gates and then hide a camera inside there. And if you're looking at that gate, you can't even actually see that there's a camera there. So, it's got its trade-offs and whatnot, but there's a lot of things that the property managers themselves are doing, whether it's beefing up their access control on their gates, as well as cameras themselves, that the property managers are doing to help yourself. So lots of property managers are installing cameras and they're managing their own system. So you don't have to necessarily invest in your own camera system because the property itself is doing that. So there's some good things that the property managers are now doing.
So if you had to list maybe some of your favorite DIY products that are out there, if I wanted to put together a DIY system, are there like some products that you absolutely love?
I love the smart doorbell. So whether it's a Ring or a Nest or even some of the cheaper, no name brand doorbells, those are extremely helpful because it's not just about when someone pushes that door, you get that notification. It also captures the motion. So even if someone isn't pushing the button, you get that motion notification. So you know when that Amazon package is dropped off, or when someone's coming up to take a look at it. So I love the doorbells themselves. Cameras, of course, are an obvious choice. You always get to look at and see what's going on. A lot of installs I've done myself have also been paired with a speaker, a horn. So we put a camera and a horn right next to it, so we can blast. Like I think you brought it up, some canned, hey, don't walk up to my property. There's dogs barking, and there's even gunshots that go off on a.
That'll scare the peacocks away.
Yeah, I like to play the message from Home Alone, when whatever the filthy animal thing.
That's
right,
amazing.
so that's something you can definitely do. I mean, you can record any response you want. When the camera detects motion, you get a notification, hit play on the sound. Or
I would just say, hey, are you here to babysit? Come on in.
Yeah, come on in. I've got 5 kids under 2. They're ready for you. I hope you brought your, change of clothes and are ready to change some diapers.
That would send me running.
Yeah, exactly.
If something does happen, if you do get robbed, what sort of things can you do to kind of maximize your chances of recovery? Or is there anything that you can recommend, that in terms of that route?
Yeah, homeowners insurance helps. Obviously, homeowners insurance for me, I guess, was described as you really want to care about your structure more than your stuff. Your stuff can be replaced, but if you take pictures of your items and you list that on your homeowners insurance, those items can be replaced. Lots of material items that you think is more important, you don't really need. There's obviously some invaluable stuff that can get replaced, but just even simple making sure that your homeowner's insurance is where you want it can go a long ways.
Yeah, keeping your homeowner's insurance updated. You get stuff. Yeah, you might have moved into your house 5-6 years ago, but you've acquired any number of things or you've upgraded all this stuff over that amount of time. I know that's something that I had to do unrelated to that because last year, as a result of fires, we evacuated. So I went through the house and went and just took pictures of every room just because, in that situation, it's like, well, you may come back and your house may not be there. And then you have no record of anything that you had. So keeping your homeowner's insurance, making sure that you had a great Christmas or something like that and you got a lot of new products, well, you should make sure that you add those coverages or whatever to your...
Right, exactly. And tell your child they don't have to post every single Christmas gift that they got. I think one of my favorite videos that one of my daughter watches is this girl who does nothing but open up her entire Christmas present collection that she got on her birthday. And why are you watching someone else, a stranger,
so big right
open
now?
Up? It's huge, right? Mm-hmm. But now I just found out every single gift that person got. And so, it's more. I think if there's anything that I recommend is really watch what you're recording and watch what you're posting. I can't stress that enough.
Yeah, and if Black Friday has taught us anything, it's that people will tackle you and stomp you to get
hold on to your ponytail.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
Other things you can do is engrave, identification numbers onto your electronics or your valuables. That can help identify should somebody actually, steal them. Cops may recover some stuff, but how do they know it's yours? You can tell them that, oh yeah, I had a 55-inch LCD TV. What brand was it? What was the serial number? What was, so putting some kind of identifying characteristics on your products can help you recover it, I guess.
Yeah, and also being mindful of what you put in the trash, right? And what's sitting in your mailbox if it's not a locked box. Just a lot of identity type.
Correct. Yeah. If people see a bunch of Amazon packages getting delivered to your house every day, I mean, that's a flag, or if they walking by your window and see the nice big TV, you want to be as preventative as you possibly can.
Yeah. Mail theft has been an issue in our neighborhood, apparently, which I never really even thought of. but I ended up buying kind of a secure locking mailbox because of that.
It's so easy to pull up with a bunch of empty Amazon boxes in your hand and pretend that you're an Amazon deliverer. They used to go UPS or whatever, but now it's not. It's
people in just cars.
Just regular people nowadays, right? And that's a lot of businesses are doing. So that your food is getting dropped off by a regular guy. So you can just have a cap of or baseball hat of a food and walk up to your door. So there's a lot of things that you want to be prepared for.
So in terms of the, getting the best coverage, what areas of the home do you recommend that, we for sure put a camera or a sensor or something like that?
Yeah, I always recommend it, of course, entry and exit points, right? So your front door, your back door, accessible windows, side doors, especially, anywhere where someone can easily get to. But even, you got to be mindful of if you have a balcony, can someone access it with a ladder and jump over that? You don't think that necessarily that because you're on that second level that no one can get to that. Well, a 10-foot ladder can easily get you to that location. So you want to make sure that those main entry points, the big entry points where someone can actually take out, exit really easily, is something that you want to cover.
I have a lot of tools and I have a lot of stuff. So I always have like ladders leaning up in places. I have, all these tools laying around outside, yard tools, all sorts of stuff that you could easily use. Well, you could easily use, to break in somewhere if you needed to. It's like, oh, I walk up. Oh, look at this. There's everything I need right there.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I actually just bought a big shed that, hopefully I can secure so that I can put all that stuff away. Because that's one of the things that's on my mind is when people, walk up and they see it, they can easily use that stuff against you.
Exactly.
And it's your products.
Exactly.
It's your items.
You got your extension ladder laying on the side of your house. I mean, it's almost an invitation sometimes.
Some neighbors may walk by and just be like, oh, he's always having work done. I just assumed that was some guy, doing work on his house.
Absolutely.
So we're going to jump into some voicemails right now. Our audience has called in with some home security questions, and we've compiled some for you. Hopefully you can help us, dive in and answer some of them. And just feel free to chime in if you guys have any insights or any answers, and we'll jump into those right now.
Great.
Yes, I have a question regarding wired versus wireless video cameras for home security, and I'm wondering if you could discuss the advantages and disadvantages between the two. Thanks.
Wired versus wireless. So again, the advantages of a wired camera is that you don't have to worry about losing Wi-Fi signal or it crashing, and it's always connected. Of course, if the power goes out, you're in the same boat. On the disadvantage side, wiring itself can be tricky. Running that cable through your attic, like as you mentioned before, or just getting it to the spot that you're looking at, as well as you also have to be mindful of the power wire. So you may need to have an electrical outlet nearby as well. But it's a more stable connection, and generally I recommend, if you can, install wired where possible. Wireless is great, especially the battery-operated type of ones, but it is a battery that you do have to replace and that you have to maintain. Wireless also as well. It's a much easier place to place cameras, so if you do want it up on a tree somewhere out that's inconspicuous, as long as it's within your Wi-Fi range, you can definitely go that route and be able to use that camera.
One thing that I really like about like the Kuna lights that I have, for example, is they mount directly to any, like the floodlight, as an example. Mounts right to the floodlight box. You can mount it up there just like any normal floodlight that you would put there. For me, if I can go the wireless route, I love the wireless route, but I totally see the advantage of having wired maybe in specific areas because, they're working on the network in your area and your Wi-Fi goes out for half a day. Well, you have no coverage during that half a day for sure.
Right, exactly. And there's no right solution, unfortunately, when it comes to whether you choose wired or wireless. It's more about knowing your home and what areas you want covered, and then choosing is wireless or wired, right for me.
And our cameras are Arlo. We purchased them at Costco, and they are solar as well. So they charge up during the day, which is great. We still have to change out batteries and everything, but they can stay charged for a significant amount of time.
Yeah.
Hey, Aaron. So I'm thinking about buying a home security system, but my budget is tight. What's a reasonable amount to spend on something like that?
So I think we touched on this a little bit.
Right. So and that's kind of the awareness I want to help bring to that, is that you can't just say, give me a system. There's so many components to it what system are you looking for? Are you looking for just cameras? Are you looking for door and window contacts or motion sensors? Are you looking for an alarm that goes off? Like you said, you were able to find some cheap Home Depot contacts that just make a noise that works as well. But do you want it actually monitored by yourself and you receive a text message? So you really have to define what it is you're looking for and what you want. A typical system, to get a starter pack, you can go and get a Best Buy, go to Best Buy and go get a Smart Things starter pack. Thinking it ranges anywhere from $99 to $250 or $300 based on the things that you get. But usually it comes with the hub itself and a couple of door contacts to get you started.
Yeah, and I think a doorbell, a video doorbell is kind of a natural jumping off point for a lot of people, or, maybe you don't have the doorbell set up or you don't want the doorbell set up, but something over your front door, is kind of a good place to start. And whether you've got $50 or $300 to spend on that, it just depends on what your budget is. And you get what you can get, for whatever you have. And even like we mentioned before, if you maybe don't have a lot of money and you don't have the ability to spend, maybe you put a fake camera there. Get a fake camera and put it up there. Yeah, it doesn't give you all the features of recording and doing that stuff, but you don't have the cost associated with it either.
Right.
And it can largely have the same effect if it is visible. If it's going to deter somebody, it's working.
So the average consumer is probably talking between $99 to $200, you would say.
Yeah.
Thing that my wife and I have been interested in is one of those automated locks for the house. We have a baby, and so coming up to the door with groceries and handling the baby and all the rest of it, we want something that could automatically open or be convenient for us to open and lock remotely as well. But there's just so many different ones on the market. I have no idea which one to go with, which one's easily hackable, which one's most safe and secure. So seeing what you might recommend. So I appreciate any advice. Thanks. Bye.
So the smart locks are the one thing that I haven't purchased yet, and only because of the security reasons and the hackable types of things.
Yeah, and he does ask about the hacking.
Exactly, because someone can actually hack that lock, and do you really want the ability to have someone to be able to do that over convenience? Electric locks are great. The convenience factor is huge. If I don't know you and I'm out of town, but I trust Tracy to come into my house, I can give her a passcode and she can get into the house, and it's a really convenience factor, which is huge. So if you have to put that bag of groceries down, for me personally, I would rather put that bag of groceries down, use a traditional key to make sure that it's not a hackable lock, or that the battery doesn't fail and it's unlocked or something like that, or you can't get in or can't get out. And what if it misfails, or fires as well? So what if you have to exit and it's completely in a locked position?
And I installed one actually recently, several months back, and I really do like it. I didn't install it at my own home. I installed it somewhere else, but it's a keypad one. And, you just punch in the code and it works great. And the way that this one actually works is, and I'm blanking on the brand of what it is that I actually installed right now, but, you can type in the code, but also you can, if for some reason the battery does fail or whatever, you still need the code, but you can bypass it with a 9-volt, like you can plug a 9-volt up underneath it and punch in a code. I don't know anybody that carries 9 volts around in their pocket, but if you did lock yourself out.
Right. And again, a convenience factor, which is great, but again, someone else with a 9-volt battery can try and do. Putting in a password is something that you want to remember. So if they know you and they search your Facebook page, something that's a good chance that someone can actually get. And if you're using the same passcode for everything, pretty good chance someone can break in and still use that.
If you move or you do something like changing your locks in terms of, you don't even necessarily have to replace the lock itself. Sometimes you can rekey it. Like Kwikset, I know, has a rekey kit that you can get on Amazon pretty cheaply. I actually have a cylinder reset thing, so I can pretty much reset any lock that you can get.
That's what we have. Kwikset is awesome. Our entire house is one key,
Yeah, and they have one key technology things and a lot of different brands. I know Signage is a big brand that is really popular as far as the door locks and stuff. Nothing is foolproof, and if it's smart. If it's a smart device, it can be hacked. So,
and again, there's nothing wrong with it at all. I'm not saying don't do it, because especially if it's at that convenience factor and it's cool and it helps you, great, go for it. Just be mindful of what the repercussions could be.
There's trade-offs.
Yeah, there is trade-offs. And so as long as someone makes an informed decision about it, the last thing I want to say, hey, you need to get this Schlage lock that does this, and for whatever reason someone still gets into it, well, who are they blaming now? Well, you told me to get that lock. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I always try to avoid, is that I'm going to let you make your own decision, but I'm going to help you get to that point.
Awesome. Well, I think you've shared a ton of great advice with us today, a lot of cool things to consider. So I guess the steps would be to, number one, analyze if you want consistent home monitoring versus DIY alerts on your phone, whatever. If you want to monitor or somebody else wants to monitor.
Correct.
So that would be step one. Step two would be to analyze your wants/needs. So do kind of a home evaluation. What areas do I need to cover entry and exit points? What areas do I really want to target? And what kind of notifications do I want based on that?
Exactly.
And then go on to Amazon or Costco.
And start researching your product.
And then also what your house is capable of, right? In terms of wiring or wireless, what you're able to do.
Correct. And how much you're willing to do. And that's one thing. I'm lazy. I do it for a living, so I don't want to come home and run cable all over my house. So, the wireless for me is the better way to go. So it's your personality. So that's why I can never just completely say, here's your system.
Right.
All wrapped up in a nice big red bow for you. There's too many different varying options that you need to choose.
And for me, a lot of it, I come down to kind of aesthetic and how it affects the home and how I like to see things, So I prefer like a more minimalist, I don't want a big bulky camera kind of thing looking there, but maybe you want that because maybe you want it to be more noticeable from a criminal perspective. You want a big bulky camera that says like, oh, hey, there's a camera right there. So it's really about what you want versus, what you can afford kind of thing.
Exactly. And that wraps it up right there.
And then we talked a lot about prevention aside from the system. So things that we talked about would be install strong door and window locks. You prefer an actual lock and key, which I think is a great point. Well-lit properties. So we talked about those floodlights. Being a good neighbor. So getting involved in the neighborhood watch. And the Ring has a great community as well.
Great, exactly.
Be mindful of what you throw away and marking your valuables.
And your mail, as far as like if you're going out of town, maybe you get somebody to pick up your mail for you so you don't have all this mail piled up so people know you're not home.
Absolutely. And then my takeaway, and keeping your insurance up to date. That was a great tip. But I think the takeaway for me was just being really mindful of what you share just because of the world we're living in right now. And get a dog.
Yeah.
Get a dog.
Get a dog if you can.
Absolutely. Ryan, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. I learned a ton, certainly about the social media aspect. I think I wasn't even thinking about that before we started talking today. So some great tips. I'm going to pick your brain some more about some stuff later on because I'm like well into this topic. But thank you so much for taking the time to be here. And hope you had a great time.
I did. Thank you.
And we want to say thank you, of course, to our founding sponsor, FilterBuy, for making this possible. And make sure you guys call in and leave us a voicemail. Our number is 978-709-1040. And we'll do our best to incorporate your questions into the show whenever possible. So thank you guys so much for watching this episode or listening to it, however you're choosing to consume it. And we will see you next time. The How To Home podcast is brought to you by FilterBuy.com, your one-stop direct-to-consumer replacement air filter brand, and is produced in collaboration by Amassed Media Group, LLC, and Intelligent Arts and Artists. The show is executive produced by George Ruiz and Aaron Massey.